Hey, what's going on, everybody? Shenmok here, and today I have another album roundup for you guys. I know I've been on a bit of a roll with the Smite stuff, but it's never too late to just include some other stuff on the channel, and this is something I've been doing for a little while now. As you may or may not know, I collect CDs, and this is basically me giving you guys music recommendations, telling you a bit about the album, the effect it had on me, etc. So let's get into it. First off, with Run the Jewels 3. Pretty self explanatory. It's Run the Jewels 3. Run the Jewels' third album. This is Killer Mike and LP duo, and I did bend it a little bit there, trying to get it out of the packaging, unfortunately. I guess I should have taken it slower, but maybe they shouldn't have. Maybe they should just chill with the packaging, because like it's already being shipped out, and you guys know what I mean. But anyways, I mean, this is a really solid Run the Jewels project. Not one of my favorites. I think this would be my second. I mean, I really like all four projects, by the way. But I would probably put this as my least favorite, just because Run the Jewels 1, it was a little more understandable while it was a little rough around the edges. Still a good album, but this was their most high budget yet. I mean, you can tell by the aesthetics of it that it was their most high budget yet by far. But like Run the Jewels 2 just kind of blew this one out of the water. It did everything that this one did, just better. A little bit more nuance, a little more consistent tone-wise. But I mean, this is still a fantastic listen. I mean, you're gonna enjoy the shit out of it. So, I still highly recommend it. I recommend all four Run the Jewel albums, and just listen to them in order too, because you can hear how they grew as a group. And then another one, Danny Brown with You Know What I'm Saying, and Danny Brown actually retweeted my video. Little video about this. I goofed on how how great just this packaging is. It's just so goofy and so Danny and so funny and uplifting, and that's sort of what he's all about. And of course, the music itself is really solid. Danny Brown. I mean, Atrocity Exhibition is probably going to be his magnum opus. As I see it. Sorry about the smudges on it. Of course, it's a very glossy finish on here. Definitely intentional. Looks really nice in person. So this is obviously, of course, the sobered up Danny, and trying to do his best to live out his life clean after what his life had turned into, unfortunately, and of course, peaking with Atrocity Exhibition and cleaning up afterwards. But this has still got some bangers on it. I mean, Savage Nomad's incredible. Combat is great. Best Life, one of my favorite Danny Brown songs. Dirty Laundry, absolutely hilarious. It's just fantastic through and through. A really enjoyable listen. Of course, not as like life changing as Atrocity Exhibition was. I mean, that album literally changed the way I looked at things. You know what I mean? This isn't that sort of album, but it is still a very enjoyable and fun listen, and you can tell Danny's doing good just by the music and of course the aesthetics of this album. So, and then the next album was actually a gift to me. So, I have only listened to it once, which was just yesterday. So I don't have too much to say about it, but it's Be the Cowboy from Mitski. I think it's a pretty enjoyable record. I wouldn't say it's like one of my favorites. I always have this thing with like female artists. They have to be very specific, or else they just don't appeal to me. It's not like I think they're bad. I think I think this album and Mitski herself, very talented, very, very talented. But just something about it just doesn't really appeal to me or make me want to come back to it too much. A few of the instrumentations, like especially with the synthesizers on this, they sounded really cool, and I did like it. I wasn't the biggest fan of her voice. It just sounded a little lofty for like no reason. You know what I mean? Like, she wasn't being overly dramatic with it, but the voice still sounded. I'm not a music person, okay, but it's still a really solid and solid album for what it is. It's just not my taste, basically. And then next up we have the Ilys with Bodyguard. So if you don't know, the Ilys is Zach Hill and Andy Morin of Death Grip's fame. This is a decent project from them. It has some really great tracks in it. I really like 49 or Later, Quietly Being the Best, The Treatment. All really solid tracks. Of course, not Disastrous Looks. That's one of the songs on the album. Scum with Boundaries was definitely their best project by a mile. I've Always Been Good at True Love was sort of them getting their footing in, and then Scum with Boundaries showed just what they were capable of. But then Bodyguards kind of felt like a step back. Still a really solid album, and it's of course it's the only CD release from them, so pretty much had to. And I do still enjoy it. It is still an enjoyable album. If you want to know what it's like super lo-fi indie rock or super lo-fi punk, essentially. And then next up, we got another banger, Charli XCX with Charli. So this is a pop record, and it's just excellent in every way. It's very, I guess what you could consider girly, but I can't stop listening to it. It's just a fantastic album through and through. Like, her voice, of course, is incredible. The instrumentation through and through is very lush and very poppy, but it does still feel very unique. And that's kind of what I was missing on this. Oh, you can't really see it. Sorry. This Mitski record. It didn't really sound too unique. It sounded quite by the books, but Charli. Yeah, it's called Charli, by the way. Charli sounds very in its own lane, but also still very ear-grabbing and ear-candy-ish and appealing. And I think that was a really interesting dynamic. Not necessarily dynamic, you guys know what I mean. But it sort of sums up the album well, is that it's very accessible and very poppy, but it is still very much in its own lane and special. So here we go. Now this one is a modern classic. I know not everyone likes that term. Focus, please. Sorry, you had to see my hand there. That was gross. But Good Kid, Mad City from Kendrick Lamar. Just, honestly, it's a pretty brutal record to listen to. It's not always easy to listen to. You got to be in the right mood for it because it is very depressing. But of course, I mean, there's still bangers on here. At the end of the day, each song is very deep and introspective and has a lot of nuance. But some of them are just like bangers. Basically, like if you don't read too deep into the lyrics, they are bangers. Like Swimming Pools, Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe, tracks like that. And then, of course, Mad City, probably like top 5 hip hop songs of all time for me. Like, this album says a lot, tells a very dark and saddening story that is, of course, Like to Pimp a Butterfly, unfortunately, very much a reality for so many people, not just in America, but all around the world. So, I mean, it's rough, but it is a great album, and a necessary album, I should say. So here's one you guys, a few of you might know if you're familiar with my music taste. I meant to check how to pronounce it. So I don't know in Italian. Dude, the focus, please. Thank you. No? Okay. So it's salmo or salmo. I don't know. I don't know which one he would want me to pronounce it as, but this is hellvisback. Very funny play on words. If you're Italian, it sounds kind of silly in English, but this is actually an Italian record. Fully Italian through and through with occasional English here and there, which is actually kind of funny. Listening to foreign artists, they actually use English here and there, and I think that's kind of fun because you don't think about it, but we do the same sort of thing. It's just funny hearing it for yourself, like the other way around, you know what I mean? But I mean, absolutely fantastic. And if you want to try it out, I would recommend the song Daytona. That's an absolute banger. Then Il Messiah, really solid too. Bentley versus Cadillac, super fun. And then this one at the back, L'Elbe. I don't know how you'd want to pronounce that. I'm sorry. I'm just not. I don't think I've taken any Italian classes or anything. So it was only Spanish for me. But I mean, this is just a classic for me personally because it was just such a gem of a find. I mean, I think he's the best-selling hip-hop artist of all time in Italy. But, the thing is, like, if the song Daytona, wasn't in Need for Speed Payback, I would never know about this album, and I think it's a really solid and fun album. So, would have really been missing out without that. So, speaking of solid and fun, Denzel Curry was Zoo. So this is sort of a in-between project for him between Taboo and whatever his next big project will be. Still absolutely phenomenal, and Denzel Curry remains to have some of the absolute best beats in the business. I mean, seriously, some of the beats on here are actually, like, you'd think God came down and was like, here you go, and then you hear the lyrics and you'd be like, oh, never mind, he He didn't have a part in that. But of course, the title track, the first track, is amazing. Wish, I actually really enjoyed. Ricky, which was just the banger. I think this came out 2019? Yeah, 2019. The banger of 2019, Ricky was. Speedboat's super fun. Bushy Bee interlude, nuts. Like, that is probably, like, top 5 interludes for me. Actually, it's probably my favorite interlude, come to think of it. Yeah, I would say it's probably my favorite interlude of all time. Then there was a couple questionable interludes, like Yo, which is just, you know how rappers, artists all around the music sphere, they use phone calls. Of course, this one's more of a fun phone call interlude. They use phone call recordings. Blackhand 88, 666. What the fuck am I saying 88? Oh, because Shake 88, of course, duh. But, Blackhand 666, another interlude that, you know, feels like it doesn't need to be there, just slows the album down for no reason. Like, this is supposed to be a smaller Denzel Curry project, so these interludes, other than Bushy Bee, that needs to be there, okay? But those interludes don't feel like they don't necessarily need to be there. I mean, otherwise, this is just such a fun project from him. I'd love it. But, you know, those interludes and packing them all in the second half kind of spoiled towards the end of it. And now we have one from a legend who was recently taken from us, MF Doom with Born Like This, and this was his final solo project while he was still with us. You know, who knows if there's still recordings out there that'll be finished up and released later on. Of course, many people are better at giving eulogies on MF Doom and his impact on the hip hop scene than me. But this was just it's a tough album to listen to, honestly, sometimes, because it is very grimy and a lot of the lyrics are really nasty, almost to the point where they're kind of gross out. I mean, one of the tracks is called Microwave Mayo, but it's supposed to be very kind of stomach churning almost. And tracks like Cells and Absolutely have some of his all-time best introspective thoughts and feelings on the world and the plight of the black community in America especially. And it's a really excellent album, and it's a really interesting one for him to have unfortunately gone out on. Whether or not he wanted to go out in this one, I guess we'll never know. But it's strange, you know, like with MF Doom, it's like he was always saying something interesting or always being funny or coming up with a rhyme scheme you've never even heard of before. And if he wasn't doing that, well, then listen again, because he definitely was. So that about wraps it up. Thought a lot of MF Doom, and it's just so sad that I was getting into his discography too late. I did actually listen to Born Like This a long time before he passed, but it was actually a little hard to get my hands on, and then when he passed, it actually got sold out a lot. Sorry, you can see my icons and stuff. I want you to see that. But okay, that about wraps it up for this album collection roundup. And if you guys saw anything that caught your eye, please check it out. I recommend all this music very highly. And yeah, thank you for watching.